The worst thing that we can do is plan that you're only going to make it to 75, and then age 76 comes around and you don't have any money left because the plan was only built till 75.
Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Mark, let's talk about famous last words. Hopefully your famous last words in life won't be, "Hey y'all, what's this?" And in the financial world, there's quite a few phrases that you don't want to be your famous last words either. First of all, I told myself a few years ago that I'd like to get out of the market if I ever recovered what I lost in 2008. But now I think I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. You don't want those to be your last words, do you?
No, they don't. Nobody can time the market, and I know everybody understands that. But in reality, human nature forces us to try to time the market, because what happens is when we see a correction, people want to get out. And then when do they get back in? When things look better, which means the market has gone up. And I can tell you, we don't know when the markets are going to go up, when they go down. And if you miss those first few days of the recovery, you're missing a substantial upside of the market. So the key is to stay in. Easier said than done, but I can tell you, if we can get the risk tolerance right up front, which is where we put a lot of time with our clients to understand how they feel about risk and go over, historically what could happen and how much they can withstand to lose, and then understand that risk tolerance, if that's going to keep them on track for their goals. So this is part of our planning process where we're really sitting down, looking at their goals, how much are they going to need, what kind of growth rate do we need, and then figuring how much risk do we need to take, and is that in alignment with their comfort level. And if all those things can kind of jive together, then we're good, because of the fact that we know things are going to go down. They don't always go up, as we know. And so understanding that and keeping you invested is really the key, because if you try to get out when it starts going down, everything's going to fail, because yes, you can get out when it's going down, but when do you get back in? I can't tell you that. I can't time the market either. There are people that claim to do that, and I can tell you, if they are claiming to do that, you probably want to run, because market timing doesn't work. You should ask them to pick lottery numbers if that's the case. So it does not work. So the key is you have to stay invested, and you have to look at your time frame. For people that aren't retiring this year, if you're retiring several years down the road, this will flush out. Markets go up and down. That's normal. So you need to understand that and be able to weather the storm. And if you have somebody that can walk you through it, and it doesn't mean that we're not getting clients calling when things get choppy, but walking through and really sitting down and understanding this, it really helps. And that's what we're here for, is to guide our clients through not just the good times, but especially the bad.
You also don't want your last words to be, "I like the security of keeping my money in cash, because I know at least I won't lose it."
You're not going to lose it per se. However, you are losing purchasing power, which is a bigger problem. You need to have a certain amount of cash. And again, we've talked about this before, either 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, or in an extreme case where somebody may be retired or close to retirement, maybe you want to go 12 months worth of expenses should be liquid. But any more than that, you're losing purchasing power. And you need to get at least net of fees and expenses a 3% rate of return. This doesn't include annuities that are supposedly paying you 10%, et cetera, whatever other people are promising. That's not a true rate of return. So what you need to have something that's going to get you at least 3%. And unfortunately, money market rates aren't going to get you there. So that's a good place to keep your cash and the stuff you need liquid for emergencies, et cetera, reserve, whatever you want to call it. However, in longer term, you need to have something, whether it's a mixture of bonds and stocks, et cetera. What's that mixture look like? We don't know until we sit down with you. We can come up with a plan, but you don't want to have too much cash sitting around, not keeping up with inflation over the long term, because that's going to hurt you down the road.
520-333-7601 is your number to call or text if you'd like to get in touch with Mark Silverman. You can get one of those complimentary 20-minute introductory calls. We're talking about famous last words and things that we don't want to be your famous last words. And another one here is, nobody in my family has lived past the age of 75, so I'm not really planning to live a long time either. That could get you in a whole lot of trouble, couldn't it?
Well, it can, and we do take that into consideration. So when we do our planning process, the planning software will take current mortality rates into the plan, and so we kind of understand what life expectancy might look like. If there is a family history, we'll take that into consideration. But we do know this for a fact: each generation now is living longer than the past generation. So the worst thing that we can do is plan that you're only going to make it to 75, and then age 76 comes around and you don't have any money left because the plan was only built till 75. That's not a good way to go. You want to make sure, better be safe than sorry. Worst case scenario is you have money left over, which can hopefully go to your spouse or your kids or grandkids, whatever, or charity, whatever it might be. So we want to make sure that we're being prudent and making the best decision possible to make sure that you don't run out of money. So, family history is important, but we know that each generation is living longer than the last. So maybe we only plan to age 85 for you, but we'll see. We have to take that in consideration. And maybe if you're married, you have a spouse that doesn't have that in their family history. So we need to protect that person as well.
Well, I've heard this so many times, Mark, folks saying, I'm not ever going to go into the nursing home. I'd rather just be put out of my misery than have to end up there. But the problem is you can't really control that. But so many people think that way.
Yeah, I've had people say, well, my spouse will take care of me. We made an agreement that we're going to take care of each other. That's not always the case. Unless your spouse is an RN or a doctor or something like that, they're not going to be able to take care of you. I mean, I can tell you firsthand, I've gone through this. I'm going through this currently, sharing something personal, but my mom has been in a nursing home since early last year with Alzheimer's. And so, she's in her late stages now. She's only 74 years old. And I can tell you, she's not where she would want to be, but there's not a choice. My father couldn't keep her at home. I mean, it was a tough decision we made as a family, but she needs, 24-hour care. And it's impossible to do that unless you have to go to a nursing home. So it wasn't our intention to have her go into a nursing home. She didn't want to go in a nursing home, but in fact, that's the case. And I can tell you through many of our clients too, we've seen them go through this too. And it's not a choice. It's not like you do your best to keep her home. My dad did his best to try to keep her home, but eventually got to a point where, it was affecting his health. He couldn't do everything that she needed, nor is he an RN. And so, you need to be realistic. And the numbers show either 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 2 people are going to need some type of care. Unfortunately, hopefully you don't never need that. But the reality is a lot of people are going to need care, especially with the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's and other things that we're seeing, these numbers on the rise for all these different conditions.
Okay, the next one that I want to mention here, famous last words, and I'm sure that you've had this said to you in your office so many times, especially when people first come in to see you. I can always go back to work if I really have to. That's a lot easier said than done, isn't it?
It's easier said than done, and a lot of people actually don't say that. They don't want to have to go back to work, and that's why we do a planning process to make sure that they have the money that they are going to plan on having and where it's going to come from with an increasing income, inflation, long-term care, all these different factors that are built in, making sure that we've looked at everything that we can possibly think of. And then, people that need to go back to work, can you get your job back? Are you going to be making the same amount of money? All these different things. What if health-wise you're not able to? Maybe they found somebody else that can do your job at half the price. So they've got 2 people instead of 1 for what they were paying you. So, it's not always an option. So when you leave your job, you need to make sure that you're not going to need to go back and get that job again. So, don't put yourself in that situation.
Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner professional. If you'd like to come in and have a conversation with Mark, I'm going to give you the number to call to make it happen in just a moment. You can also get that complimentary phone call. But Mark, what happens when you get on the phone with someone, or if beyond that, you sit down with them in your office? What kind of things do you talk about?
We talk about all these different things that we just discussed, really. And more. We'll talk about our investment philosophy, our planning process, what's entailed, what we do, what's included, how we charge, and really get a feel for what you're looking for, what kind of services. And if we decide that we're a good fit in this introductory phone call, we will set up what we call a get acquainted meeting here in the office, where we'll go through all this stuff in writing and answer any questions that you may have, then determine if we want to move forward from that as well or not. So, we're trying to bring on the right clients. We try to help everybody that we can. Doesn't mean everybody's a good fit, but if you're not a good fit, I will do my best to point you in the right direction or give you some advice to get you improve your situation. So, but we don't know that until we have a conversation. So the first step is either, give us a call or send us a text.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601, or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money.
Did you know that Mark Silverman also has a radio show? Tune in to Saving with Silverman Saturdays and Sundays at 3 p.m. on AM 790 KNST.
All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. The show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.